Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the weirdest Assassin's Creed game. Now, when it comes to playing Assassin's Creed games, I'm kinda new. I've played most of the next-gen releases and most of Assassin's Creed 3. Now, please believe me when I say that I'm not great at games, because this is no exception, and really, I like the experience that a game gives, and that's about it. And the topic of conversation for today is DLC. More specifically, Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC content. This is content that, quite frankly, gives me an out-of-game experience. Now, I really loved Assassin's Creed Origins and how it made you feel like you were part of the world, that you could go place to place. For whatever Origins managed to do, Odyssey put it on steroids. For me, the map was just too big. It was just large vistas, and you weren't exactly encouraged to use trees or high places as cover, as there wasn't much cover to begin with. And you couldn't hop from building to building top, mostly because they weren't close enough for you to jump to, or you had the Assassin's Creed jumping problem. When it comes to my experience with the Odyssey game, I'd finished the overworld gameplay in about a year. After I'd finished the main game and the overworld content, I was brought to the new worlds that it gave me. Now, if you haven't played the main game, they already have a focus on Greek mythology with Minotaurs and Medusa and even a Cyclops or two. But things really step up a level when you get to the DLC, and most importantly, when you get to the gateway of Atlantis. Now, when it comes to the DLC content, it took me a year to do. Now, look, I take a lot of big breaks when playing games, especially games as long as Assassin's Creed, and with the amount of DLC content, it took me that long to just get through it. So the locations that they give you are Elysium, the Underworld, and Atlantis, in that order. So let's go through them now. The first world you will be put into is Elysium, a paradise, where you are greeted with nothing but hostility, not being welcomed, and this is present through the look and the design of the world. Its almost magical nature is juxtaposed by the civilizations that live there. They're mostly controlled and oppressed by the leader, Persephone. The world is made up of this large, flat land with mountains that just climb up. Now, it's interesting because it seems to be plain, it's magical. But when you start talking to people, you start to see that this is made by the restrictions that Persephone has given upon her people. Despite all of them wanting peace anyway, her control is leading it to be divided. This is also emphasising the gods, who have been mind controlled into believing that she is the best and to fight for her. And this brings me to the gimmicks that the game gives you. The gimmick for this specific world is the fact that you can liberate the imprisoned. This also filled into the juxtaposition. It's just a world that looks so peaceful and beautiful, but also is in ruins. All the civilizations that aren't controlled by Persephone are completely ruined. They almost look like what you'd imagine the lost city of Atlantis to be. Going through these levels, I decided to take pictures, and I'm going to show you them now. I think it's the best way to demonstrate the look of the game, and to be fair, there's no bigger compliment for a video game than wanting to just look at it for hours on end. Moving on to the next place, the Underworld. You get kicked down to hell, where you meet Hades. Now this is a lot different from the paradise that you've seen before, but the people that you meet are completely different. In Assassin's Creed, it's a gimmick that when you create a final assassination that you can speak to them just before they die and get some last words and some knowledge, and it can really help. But from there, you've never spoken to someone you've assassinated. You don't know if the people that you are getting justice for, the stuff that they've done wrong, if they want to repent. And it's that conversation here. You meet the people that you have assassinated and they've turned good and they want to help, and they've been helping Hades in punishing those that deserve it. This is extremely interesting. If Elysium was showing that everything seemingly good can secretly be bad, the Underworld shows you that your actions can have consequences. The entire level, if you can call it that, started from you defeating the guard to the Underworld, and you have to find replacements. This also causes the gimmick. When you defeat that, portals will open up and release the dead, and you have to go into those portals to fight them and defeat them, closing up those portals. I think that's how it works. I'm not an expert on the Underworld. This turns into almost a Herculean task, where you have to help people in search of this armor that will keep you from dying and that you can pass into parts of the world where only dead people can go. Another thing that I find interesting is how your decisions are really affected here, as Hades and Poseidon have made this bet on which options you'll choose. They're testing your morality, and at first I thought that Hades might be judging me on what I've done, as I thought that he had more experience with humans. However, that was quickly changed upon its head, for better or for worse. But when I was playing, this genuinely made me wonder what their intentions are, and was I just a pawn in their god's game? I don't think I can quite explain the atmosphere of the Underworld without showing you the pictures, but what I will say is it's architecturally completely different to that of Elysium, and it has these weird marble glowing things that effects are brought over to other places, more specifically the city of Atlantis. This is by far my favourite place. The architecture is just so unique. It's breathtaking, and without Atlantis, I wouldn't be making this video. This place we are introduced as a guardian. This is the only place where it's acknowledged by the ruler, Poseidon, that it's not perfect. This place isn't perfect. It has a combination of humans and issue, but like the other places, your decisions unearth a toxic community, leading to experiments, and reveals many things that could keep down and that don't need to be there. Ultimately, the city itself is its own downfall, as you have to decide whether to destroy Atlantis or not. It's your decision, and it's led by your paths, and it's got one of the hardest boss battles that I accidentally deleted the footage of, so you're not going to get that. But this ending is incredibly sad. It's not happy, it doesn't have a good ending, but none of them do. They're all paths to you learning, and I think that's very important. I think these DLCs made the decisions you make more important than the main game ever did. You're always thinking, am I doing the right thing? Except if you're playing the game like you don't want to do the right thing, in which case you're thinking the opposite. Never mind. Other than the story, the twist in gameplay here is you have to learn more about everything. You have to learn more about the culture, you have to learn about demigods and more about your staff, which is the entire reason you've been in any of this. But personally, I think this is the weakest out of all of them, as all you have to do is find statues and learn from them. It's not as innovative as gameplay as the other two have been, and where you have to think about whether you're going to have to knock someone out and liberate them, or whether you're going to have to sneak over to one part and hope that the others don't see you. Now that I've walked you through all the 3 different parts of this, I should probably restate that this took me a year to complete. And during that year, I never went back into the overworld, because I'd finished the story. There was no purpose for me to go back there. And once this was all done in Atlantis, you get thrown back into the overworld. Now that I've spent a year looking at large flowery locations or drowned out locations, that I'd forgotten that this was just Greece. It was an Assassin's Creed game, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd forgotten that Assassin's Creed Odyssey had a war going on in its overworld. I can't explain properly how I felt when I'd been brought back into this overworld. It felt like a completely different game. I felt like I'd gone through so much. The character had changed so much. I thought that he'd basically become a demigod. I'd fought gods. I'd fought Hades. I'd stood by Poseidon. And now I'm back where the game started, on Zeus's lightning bolt, at the start of the game. I love this game for what it does, but I don't love it as an Assassin's Creed game like I did with Origins. I didn't know how much time passing made me forget the original intentions. But I have faith that even though this didn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game, I feel like the next one will be. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, already having the Assassin's Creed Gauntlet, brought back so many feelings. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it doesn't remind me of jumping off rooftops. It doesn't remind me of the Assassin's Creed Gauntlet. It doesn't remind me of the HUD, or the colours, or the message. It just feels like another game. And I hope that the way I structured this video has shown you how I felt during all of this. How the overworld was the Assassin's Creed 1 to 4, and then the middle bit, it had lost its way. It was still good to me, but it wasn't the original game. And then at the end, when you get thrown back into the realization what it used to be, what it is now, I can't decide which one's better. Either way, I still love the games, I still love playing them, so I will keep on playing them, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed title, it feels like another Ubisoft venture. And at the end of this, I hope you all have a good day, and see you in the next one, whenever that'll be.